very much. So we are now, welcome to our school board meeting for February 1st. This will be happening in two parts. We have a small work session followed by our first budget work session. Prior to this, we were in executive session where we were going over some personnel issues and contract negotiations. So it's 7:07 and I'd like to call the meeting to order. And I know Julie is not with us, so I will do roll call. Pat Brabant.
Here.
Tim Frazier.
Here.
Dave Conlon.
Here.
Barbara Dayton here. And Amy Rivera is not present right now. So if we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, everybody. As we are starting off with the work session, we will have public commentary available after each topic for a brief period of time. So I know that LTV will have the phone number up there, and when we are finished with the items on the agenda, and our 4 discussion items this evening are COVID testing update, and MOA for COVID, a remote learning update, and the return of the students on February 8th for our middle school. So Deb, if we want to go ahead and start with the COVID testing update, please.
Yes, I'm going to start with the general update, and we do have Anna here, so I broke this up into 3 separate sections. Good evening, everyone. We currently have K-5 students in person 4 days a week. Students and the teachers have made a nice transition, and they're happy to be back. Our absences on the elementary level continue to be a little higher than previous years, but we are encouraging our parents to keep their children home if their child is sick or anyone in their home is sick and waiting for testing. In addition, we have a number of students who have required quarantining due to someone in their home testing positive, so that has reduced the number of students in school. The Suffolk County rate as of Friday, COVID rate was 6.8%. higher than the New York State COVID rate, which was 4.4. So we've seen a steady decline since the spike after the holidays. For spring school this past week, we did have 6 teachers test negative, 2 staff members test positive. They were not teachers, and they had no contact with students. In fact, one of them was not even in the building. The other one was in the building in the evening. 12 students tested negative this past week, and 3 students tested positive this week. So it was a much smaller week. Anna, would you like to translate that into Spanish now?
Buenas noches, good evening, everybody. Buenas noches a las familias de habla hispana. Para traducirles lo que la superintendente acaba de leer, es un reporte acerca de COVID. Actualmente, estudiantes de kinder a 5º grado vienen a clases en persona 4 días a la semana. Los estudiantes y maestros han hecho la transición sin ningún problema y están felices de estar de regreso. La asistencia al nivel de primaria continúa un tanto más alta que en años anteriores, pero alentamos a nuestros padres de familia a que mantengan a sus hijos en casa si su hijo está enfermo o si alguien en casa está enfermo o esperando hacerse la prueba. Además, tenemos un número de estudiantes que requieren meterse en cuarentena si alguien en sus hogares ha salido con un resultado positivo. El índice del condado de Suffolk este viernes fue 6.8%, más alto que el índice del estado de Nueva York de 4.4%. En la escuela de Springs esta semana recién pasada, 6 maestros salieron con un resultado negativo, 2 miembros de personal salieron con un resultado positivo, no maestros, sin ningún contacto con estudiantes y sin estar en el edificio escolar. 12 estudiantes salieron con un resultado negativo y 3 estudiantes salieron con un resultado positivo esta semana.
Thank you, Anna. We will begin voluntary COVID testing on Wednesday, February 1st, 2021. This testing is by appointment only. It is not open to the public. This testing is to assess if there is a spread in the school by asymptomatic individuals. Staff will be tested first thing in the morning, followed by students who will be brought in to the building, to the gym, through the side doors, the car line doors, by their parent. All are required to complete a health survey. If they have had COVID in the last 90 days, they may not be tested. If they have symptoms, they may not be tested. This is a rapid test and requires 15 minutes to get the results. The district is required over the next 2 weeks to test 20% of our students and staff, which means we will test 160 students and children and staff. We estimate we will test half of the participants on February 3rd and the other half on February 10th. This testing would not be possible without our staff and our students who have volunteered to be tested. We'll be looking for Springs number to be less than the county number. Special thanks to our nurses, Mrs. Girardi, Mrs. Gurney, as well as our substitute nurses who have volunteered to come in and help us test. Special thanks to my secretary, our technology support, and our interpreters. Of course, we will post our results on the New York State COVID report card and share them with the Springs community. Again, for parents, please enter through the car line doors. Please park in a safe spot, and there will be security guards outside to assist you, as well as interpreters once you get in. Ana?
Empezaremos a hacer pruebas de COVID a voluntarios el miércoles 3 de febrero. Muy importante, para hacerse estas pruebas se necesita sacar cita. No está abierto al público. Estas pruebas son para ver si hay contagio en la escuela de individuos asintomáticos. A los empleados se les hará la prueba a primera hora de la mañana. Después se le hará la prueba a estudiantes traídos por sus padres. Se les requiere que completen la encuesta de salud. Si han tenido COVID en los últimos 90 días, entonces no se les puede hacer la prueba. Si tienen síntomas, no se les puede hacer la prueba. Esta es una prueba rápida y requiere esperar 15 minutos para obtener los resultados. Al distrito se le requiere, en el transcurso de 15 días, hacerle la prueba a un 20% de nuestros empleados y estudiantes, lo cual quiere decir que le haremos la prueba a 160 estudiantes y padres. Calculamos que le haremos la prueba a la mitad de los participantes el 3 de febrero y la otra mitad el 10 de febrero. Les agradecemos a los empleados y estudiantes que ofrecieron hacerse la prueba. Esperamos que los números de Springs sean más bajos que los del condado. Un agradecimiento especial a nuestras enfermeras, la señora Girardi y señora Gurney, así como a nuestras enfermeras sustitutas que se han ofrecido a hacerse la prueba. Un agradecimiento especial a mi secretaria, nuestro apoyo en tecnología e intérpretes. Tendremos intérpretes disponibles y guardas de seguridad también. Por supuesto que publicaremos nuestros resultados en la nota de COVID del estado de Nueva York y compartiremos con nuestra comunidad de Springs. Padres, por favor, entren por la puerta del lado del gimnasio, por donde se hace la fila de carros. Por favor, traigan solamente a los estudiantes que son alumnos de la escuela de Springs a hacerse la prueba.
Thank you, Anna. I just want to remind the public that they are still accepting open enrollment periods for uninsured New Yorkers through March 31st, and they can do this through the New York State Health or directly through the insurers that are listed on that website. Our parents continue to help us by quarantining their children 10 days from symptoms or 10 days from testing with no symptoms Due to contact, I'm going to define contact as 15 minutes masked or unmasked within 6 feet with someone known to have COVID. If a negative test comes back, you are not released from quarantine if you've been in contact with somebody with COVID, so please still remain out of school. It's essential that you wait the full 10 days. Quarantine should last 10 days from the exposure to the person with COVID. In addition, you should continue to monitor yourself for signs or symptoms past the 10 days up to 14 days. If you have any questions about your period of quarantine, you can call the local health department and, of course, our school nurses. I also want to remind the public that there is a moratorium on residential evictions. We used to have that up on our website. We'll put that back up again. It's from May 1st, 2021, the current deadline for that. Indoor and outdoor gatherings at private residences have not gone up. They are still at 10 people. New travel guidance are in effect as well, that anyone traveling for February break should be aware that you now require a test to get on an airplane. So if you end up someplace where you can't get a test, you're not going to be able to get home. So just take note of that. Your child will also be marked absent and will not be able to access any remote learning during that time if you choose to travel. If you are driving and cannot show a test 3 days before arriving in New York, you will be required to quarantine for the 10 days, even with a local test on the 4th day. Please consider all of these when making your choice to travel. These guidelines also are for adults and their employer. So as an employer, we have to also make sure that the staff honor these travel restrictions as well. Ana?
Me gustaría recordarle al público que el periodo para conseguir seguro en el estado de Nueva York ha sido extendido hasta el 31 de marzo del 2021. Pueden aplicar a través de la página del estado de Nueva York de salud o directamente a través de los seguros. Nuestros padres nos continúan ayudando al mantener a sus hijos en cuarentena o en casa si no se sienten bien. Si su hijo ha estado en cuarentena 10 días desde que le empezaron los síntomas o 10 días desde que le hicieron una prueba y no tenía síntomas, debido al contacto, que el contacto se define como 15 minutos con mascarilla o sin mascarilla, a más cerca de 6 pies con alguien que haya tenido COVID. Una prueba negativa no le da derecho a salir de la cuarentena. Es esencial que espere 10 días, completamente 10 días completos, para asegurarse de que la infección no aparezca, aunque no tenga síntomas, antes de que pueda salir de la cuarentena. La cuarentena debe durar 10 días desde la última vez que fue expuesto a una persona con COVID. Además, debe de continuar de ponerle atención a usted y ponerle atención a cualquier síntoma o señales de que pueda tener COVID. Por unos 14 días después de la última vez que fue expuesto a COVID. Si tiene alguna pregunta, tiene alguna pregunta acerca de su periodo de cuarentena, puede comunicarse con el Departamento de Salud local. También le quería recordar que el moratorio de desahucios para inquilinos está ahorita lo puedo utilizar desde ahora hasta el 1 de mayo del 2021 para aquellos inquilinos que necesiten, si tienen dificultades con su renta. Si hay reuniones, ya sea adentro o afuera, en residencias privadas, en casas privadas, siempre están limitadas a no más de 10 personas. También les quería recordar de las nuevas pautas de viaje que están en efecto para todos viajeros que viajen fuera del estado. Tienen que meterse a una cuarentena obligatoria de 10 días. Entonces, nada más para recordarles que si ustedes deciden viajar ahora que vienen las vacaciones en febrero, por favor, avísele al maestro de su hijo o a la enfermera. Su hijo se le marcará ausente y no tendrá derecho al aprendizaje por computadora o remoto. Si no puede hacerse un examen, una prueba antes de regresar a Nueva York, porque tiene que hacerse una prueba 3 días antes de regresar a Nueva York. Si está viajando en avión, tiene que traer el resultado de la prueba antes de montarse al avión, o si viene manejando y si no tiene, puede que tenga dificultades para regresar, para entrar al estado. Y si no tiene prueba de que se hizo el examen 3 días antes de regresar al estado de Nueva York, se le pedirá que se meta en cuarentena por 10 días, aún después de haberse hecho una prueba el 4º día después de haber llegado a su casa. Entonces, por favor, se le pide que considere, que piense muy bien las decisiones que haga para viajar. Estas pautas también aplican a los adultos y su regreso a trabajo.
Thank you, Anna. Barbara, any questions?
Any questions from the board right now?
Deb, on Wednesday, the parents that signed up their children for testing, how is that going to work with the car line so that it's, is there a plan for how they're going to bring the students in?
Yeah, there's no car line on Wednesday. We chose Wednesday because there's no school, Dave. So they just have to find parking. And security has been assigned to work Wednesday. So they will direct them to come in the side doors. They've been given an appointment, so it's by appointment. Anybody who volunteered received an email that they have to sign up for an appointment.
Okay, so if you didn't get an email, if you signed up and you didn't get an email, then what do you do?
Let me know and we'll find out what happened. But we had just about enough parents sign up. So there was like 123 parents that volunteered. So 123 parents should have received an email to make an appointment. Now they might have run out of appointments, but you should have still received an email.
Okay, so the 162 or the 160s, including staff.
Yes.
Okay, but every parent that signed their kid up should anticipate that they would have gotten an email by now, or?
Yes, they should have gotten an email with a Google Doc to actually, it's a calendar. So you would look at the calendar and choose a time for your child from 10 to noon and from 1 to 3.
Okay.
And we're doing it every 5 minutes.
So if they didn't get that email, they should probably call the school in the morning?
Yes, yes. They can call myself or Linda Cornell.
For the 15-minute wait, will parents need to wait there, or will you call people rather than having people wait around?
No, they have to wait, Barbara, because they need to be educated on what they need to do next. So we are using the entire gym. We have a floor plan. Hopefully we'll be able to set up tomorrow late afternoon, if not early Wednesday morning. My preference is to set up tomorrow late afternoon. And then we start testing our staff at 8:30. And our staff will be tested from 8:30 to 10 o'clock. We do have a representative coming out from BOCES, Health and Safety, who's been at many of these testing sites, and will tell us if we've got it set up right, if we've got our proper forms. She'll probably be out there very early. She'll probably be out about 7 o'clock.
All right, so because since we're doing this on day when teachers are there probably is not going to be that much parking on campus itself, so people may have to park down the street or something in order to get there, correct?
Yes, but remember, we don't have any of our hourly employees in any, lunch and recess monitors, so I don't see it being a problem. We have about 20 some odd recess monitors that come on campus every day. And I have asked the security guards to be there, so.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions from the board on this subject? Then in that case, Matt, if anyone in the public has a question, this would be a time to call in regarding any questions on COVID testing for any of our viewers right now.
Okay, so far we have 0 callers. If you want, we can give it another minute or two, but right now we have 0 callers.
Okay.
Right, let them know.
Yes, please, Anna.
Padres de familia, si alguien tiene alguna pregunta acerca de lo que se ha hablado hasta el momento, pueden llamar en este momento para exponer su pregunta. Gracias.
And if we don't have it, if somebody ends up calling later, then certainly we can, later on at the end, go over a COVID question if somebody should call in at that time. But if there are no calls now, Matt, then Deb, we can move on to the next item.
Real quick, Barbara, does Anna want to say anything about the parents would have gotten the email regarding the time and everything to come in on Wednesday? I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that.
Sure.
Anna, did you go over that?
Sorry.
I just don't want random parents thinking that, Wednesday's the day to come piling in with all the kids to get their COVID test. There's specific parents that sign their kids up for COVID tests, and I think we need to be clear about that.
Sure. Padres de familia, nada más queremos aclararles que las pruebas que se van a llevar a cabo el miércoles, para poder hacerse las pruebas, si ustedes ofrecieron traer a sus hijos el miércoles, hacerse la prueba, antes de venir el miércoles necesitan hacer cita, no pueden nada más llegar y sin cita. Cada persona que va a venir el miércoles a hacerse la prueba tiene cita. La escuela había mandado un correo electrónico para que de ahí pudieran sacar la cita para el miércoles. Si por algún motivo no recibieron ese correo electrónico, entonces puede llamar a la escuela y comunicarse con la superintendente para ver, ¿verdad?, por qué no recibieron el correo electrónico, pero ya a estas alturas ya han mandado todos los correos electrónicos. Entonces, si por algún motivo, si usted se ofreció hacerse o a su hijo hacerse la prueba y no ha recibido el correo electrónico, entonces por favor comuníquese con la escuela. Pero no puede llegar sin cita a hacerse la prueba. Eso es lo que queremos que tengan en claro. Gracias.
Great, thanks, Anna. Matt, I'm taking it that there's still no phone questions at this time?
That's correct. 0 phone calls.
Okay, thank you. So Deb, we can move on at this point.
The COVID MOA is just for the board's information. That was a requirement to do the testing. These tests are free. They come from the Department of Health, and our requirement is just to report that we did, on-site testing. So I just wanted you to have a copy of the MOA. And again, I want to thank Dr. Schoenfeld for signing off on this. Move to the next one, Barbara.
Yes.
Remote learning.
Yep.
Okay. So we have a remote learning update. We will have a small percentage of our students not returning to full in-person learning 4 days a week. We anticipate February 8th for our return of our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. In the meantime, we have a letter ready to go out, and I would like Christine to explain the small group of students that may request remote learning, full remote learning. Christine?
Sorry, I was on mute. Good evening, everyone. So yes, we are very much looking forward to having our 6th through 8th graders come back into the building 4 days a week, starting on Monday, February 8th. But we also realize, as did the board, and thank you for your support on this, that there are some families in our community that either have a parent or a child or an elderly relative living with them that may be immunocompromised. So we wanted to give an alternate learning plan for those families and those students. We do expect, as Ms. Winter said, that this would be a very small percentage of our student body that would take advantage of this full remote option. There is some strict criteria with the option. So basically it would be open to students in K through 8, except for the advanced math and science students in grades 6 through 8. And that's because of the rigor of the coursework, but also because they have a Regents exam to take at the end of the course. So we had to sort of leave them out of the mix here. There will be a commitment of 2 quarters, 3rd and 4th quarter. So if somebody is going to have their child go on full remote, that student would start February 8th and end on the last day of school, which I believe is Friday, June 25th this year. And they would be taken off the class roster that they're currently on, and they would go specifically to one of our teachers that are on remote assignment that are assigned to that particular grade level. They would become the responsibility of that remote teacher. That teacher would handle the students' grades, the direct instruction, the attendance, and everything else related to that program. Having said that, we are following New York State mandates and guidelines for home hospital instruction. So it is a truncated day of learning for the students that go on full remote. Kindergarten through 5th grade, they are eligible for 1 hour per day or 5 hours per week of direct instruction. And then the rest of their work would be independent. And 6 through 8, the students are eligible for 10 hours a week or 2 hours a day, depending on how you split up the hours. And again, that's as per New York State guidelines. Other than that, as far as the whole idea of these students not being on campus, but being home to either protect themselves or somebody that they live with, that means they would be prevented from participating in after-school clubs or sports, or even support services, such as sort of AIS or any kind of early morning help, things like that, that we do provide at different levels. It's not an ideal program, but it is an alternative, and we do want to be sensitive to the needs of all of our families, and everybody has a different circumstance. So this letter will go out to parents tomorrow that does outline all the specifics, and then they can contact me directly. The request would be vetted by an administrator and then ultimately approved, hopefully by an administrator, and then that student would start on February 8th. Deb, have I forgotten anything about that?
No, did you want, I didn't send this to Anna ahead of time. Do you want Anna to try to summarize it?
Sure, and the letter for parents is translated also. It's in English and in Spanish, but do you have that, Anna, or do you need me to repeat some of that?
I shared it with her.
Oh, perfect. Go for it.
I just took some notes as you were going, but I can do the letter too. Padres de familia querían, la directora quería informarles que a partir del 8 de febrero los grados de 6º a 8º van a regresar 4 días por semana en persona a la escuela, a clases. También el 8 de febrero tendrán la opción de que si por algún motivo, si tienen alguna persona en casa que tiene ¿verdad? Está delicada de salud o por algún motivo ahí están preocupados que les vaya a dar COVID, entonces les van a dar la opción de de pasarse al aprendizaje por computadora o remoto todo el tiempo. La opción estaría disponible de grados desde el kinder hasta octavo grado, excepto por los estudiantes en grados de sexto a octavo de clases avanzadas, porque como ellos tienen exámenes del estado a final de año, entonces necesitarían estar en clases en la escuela. Con esa opción tendrían que comprometerse a los últimos 2 cuartos de año que quedan, que las fechas serían del 8 de febrero hasta el fin de año, que es el 25 de junio. Parte del proceso sería que los quitan de la lista de sus maestros que tienen ahorita y le asignan un nuevo maestro. Si se compromete a participar en esta opción, no tendrá derecho a participar en programas después de clases como deportes o algún otro programa, o si necesita ayuda extra en la mañana o así, cosas así, tampoco podrá participar en eso. Para poder tomar esa opción, se comunica con la directora, Ms. Cleary, y ellos, ¿verdad?, revisan su aplicación o le revisan el parte del proceso es que revisan eso y después lo aprueban y así entonces se queda comprometido a esos 2 últimos cuartos de año. Estarían bajo las pautas del estado de Nueva York. Estudiantes que estudien por computadora o remoto en los grados de kinder a quinto grado tendrán derecho a instrucción directa de 5 horas por semana, y estudiantes por computadora o remoto en grados de sexto a octavo tendrían derechos a 10 horas de instrucción directa por semana. También habrá asignaciones independientes. Creo que eso es todo. I think that covered it.
Thank you, Anna.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Anna.
Deb, and I suppose, what further do you want to go over on the February? Do we want to take questions on this right now, or should we combine that and do combined questions regarding the February 8th return as well?
We can take questions on the remote. The February 8th, we just wanted to give an update that we're ready to go, that there were some changes to schedules because we added sections to reduce the number of students in those classes.
Right. So, Matt, if anybody wants to call in at this point with any questions regarding remote learning, we will be, taking calls on that right now.
Okay, we still have 0 callers.
Okay. Alrighty. So, Deb, if you just want to say anything else about the February 8th and students coming back, if any calls come in, we can just jump on them.
Right. I just want to thank Maria Mondini. She has really taken this and run with it. Creating a whole new schedule for 6, 7, and 8 was an unbelievable task. I thank the parents for their patience as well, because bringing these students back safely and reducing the number of students in a classroom took us time to redo these schedules. Every classroom will have an individual desk. Every classroom desk will have a shield on it. And the only difficulty that we continue to struggle with because of space is finding space for our staff, but our staff have been very accommodating and very flexible, and we thank them as well. But we are looking forward to having everybody back in our building. We may have 1 or 2 extra bus routes. We're still working on confirming with parents if they're going to use the bus or not. A lot of the parents use the bus as a backup, So we're not too concerned about our buses being overloaded. They just like to know it's there in case they can't get to pick up their students. So I think we're in really good shape. And as I said, testing on Wednesday will be very telling. If that testing shows us something that we're not prepared for, then I will be coming forward to say we should push back students coming back in. But I expect right now things are in a good place, and we'll be ready to greet our students on Monday. Anything I forgot, Christine?
No, I think that's it. I think we're just very excited to see everybody, and we're glad we could also provide an alternative for those who need it, and everything is ready to go. And Maria Mondini is the schedule and desk and shield queen. So thank you.
I have a question about, since you've changed the schedule, how might things look a little different for our students in terms of relating to the schedule they would have had for the first part of the year versus coming up? Will they be having classes at different times than they had, or what might anything look very different?
Well, normally the students in 6th through 8th, their schedules change anyway, quarter to quarter. They may get, 20 weeks of art and, a quarter of facts, family and consumer science. So they're used to their schedules changing. It's really more the teachers, because we added the extra section. They will be getting more gym, more PE than they're getting right now. So that's a bonus. And that's at every level, K through 8.
And they actually need to be doing that.
Yes.
For a while, right?
Yep.
Okay. Great. Well, I know what a big chore that was. So thank you very much to the administration and Maria for getting that all worked out so everybody can come back. And, as always, we will remain flexible and see what happens with the testing. And if something needs to change, we know how to make those changes, but hopefully that will not be necessary this time around.
Barbara, special thanks to the business office too. They have been doing such a great job in getting us all our materials. No easy task either, with just shipping alone has been a nightmare. So they've developed relationships, and everything has been arriving when they say it's going to arrive. So I'm grateful to the business office, Julie, Kelly, Mike, Nikki, for making all of those things happen for us.
And our custodians.
Oh, yes.
And our custodians.
Thank you for recognizing them publicly, the business office and our custodians, who have really been doing a yeoman's job of getting all that stuff done. Thank you all very much for that. So do any board members have any questions at this time on these work session items? And Matt, last chance for any callers on work session, COVID testing, or remote learning questions?
We have 0 callers, Barbara. Thank you.
Okay. Then if there are no questions from the board at this time, then I would do I have a motion to adjourn the work session?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you. And we will go over to our first budget workshop.
Excuse me, if I may.
Yes.
Will you still be taking callers even with the budget work session, or no?
Yeah, usually
I'm sorry, go ahead.
we usually, since it's a workshop, attendees are usually allowed to ask questions at the budget workshop, but that would not be until the end.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So at 7:46, and I would like to call the budget workshop to order. Julie, do you want to do roll call?
Sure. Barbara Dayton,
Here.
Tim Frazier,
Here.
Dave Conlon,
Here.
Pat Brabant,
Here.
Amy Rivera, absent.
Thanks, Julie.
Sure.
So this is the first of a number of budget workshops where we will start laying out plans for the following year. And we have our business official, Mike Henry, here, who has a PowerPoint prepared for us. So we can go ahead and move right into thinking about the budget.
Mike, can you share the PowerPoint presentation, please?
I am going to give it the best shot I have. Yeah, I'm going to give it a try. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yep, got it.
All right.
A view of our new front building. Really the back building, but it will be now the front building.
Yeah, it'll be the new main entrance.
Can't wait for that. All right, Mike. So
You ready to go?
I'm gonna start off by reminding everybody Spring's mission. Spring School is committed to providing a safe environment and enriched educational experience for our students with an emphasis on academics, physical, social, and emotional growth. We will prepare our students to be lifelong learners, to respect cultural diversity, to embody positive character traits, and be responsible, caring citizens. So as we think about budget, let's keep in mind Spring School mission going forward. Mike, next slide. So these are proposed goals. And of course, the administration would like to have the conversation with the Board of Education, with our teachers, and with our parents. But this is what we're proposing for 2021-22, and this is what we'd like the budget to support. High quality instruction, to provide and support engaging high quality instruction, which promotes active learning. Our students have definitely taken an active role in their learning this year. Maximizing student achievement. Curriculum, providing students with innovative, well-rounded, civically responsible curriculum that will prepare students to be college and career ready, as well as thrive in a global society. Professional development and wellness. We've put a big focus on that even during COVID. We will provide our staff inspiring, relevant, and meaningful learning and wellness opportunities in a safe and supportive environment to prepare for the ever-changing needs of our district. There's been a lot of professional development this year, and it will continue next year for our staff. Whole child approach. We will be providing inspiring, creative, healthy. Okay, Mike.
Sorry.
Fostering engaging and support and challenges for our students. Resources. We will be good stewards of our resources and pursue new avenues to support the goals of the district. Mike? This is what we want to maintain with this budget going forward. We want to continue the well-rounded education that meets the New York State standards. We want to continue the small size of our classes, 18 to 25 students, due to the uncertainty of social distancing requirements for the fall, the inconsistent attendance of our students this past year. We really believe the small class size could assist our students next year. Staffing that meets the state and federal mandates and requirements. A commitment to technology-supported instruction. We know how important the vision that this board had in providing 4 to 8 Chromebooks. When this hit, the challenge of just getting Chromebooks in the hands of K to 4. Without that vision, I think we'd still be trying to get Chromebooks into the community and into our students' hands. So thank you for that vision that you had long before I came to the school district. Extracurricular activities. This has been a year of many absences, the absence of sports and band. Our chorus is virtual, and I can't wait to share what they've been able to create. Return to our opera, our robotics, all those things that made Springs a special place. Continue our school security guard, their weight in gold, especially with the increased demands on car line. Adequate custodial staff. Again, thanks to the support of the Board of Education, we have been able to add 2 custodians, and we will make those custodians full-time, we hope, in the next budget. Fully staffed bus drivers with the recommendation to maintain our bus monitors. They've been instrumental in keeping our children in their seats, keeping them with masks on, and keeping everyone safe. Permanent substitute teachers and teacher assistants. I can't tell you what this has meant to our faculty and to our students to have permanent substitute teachers. There's a small number of them, but every day they make a difference, and we've been able to stay open for in-person instruction due to their dedication and their support. Maintain professional development. We spoke a great deal about the professional development that we've offered our staff this year, and we want to continue that next year. New generation standards, curriculum, technology. Maintain comprehensive social and emotional programs and supports for not only our students, but for our staff through this very difficult time. This avenue has been very important. And in fact, there's a great push from the state and from the federal government to have trauma-sensitive support for our students. And again, this board has been proactive. Added a psychologist 2 years ago, and we just would like to maintain that mental health piece and that social and emotional piece for not only our students, but for our staff. Mike,
Yeah.
I think this one is you.
Enrollments and class sizes. This is the last year's actual enrollment, the number of sections, average class size, and then 2021 current enrollment to, as of now, same thing, number of sections, average class size, and the change between last year and this year in terms of the number of classes. So as you can see, pre-K, we dropped our own pre-K program. So in effect, that drops it down a section, but we added a section in special ed grade 3 to 5. So right now we're looking at a total enrollment right through our high school students, our students at BOCES, our students at private schools outside of the district, for a grand total of 1,048 students that we support versus last year was 1,085. I think a lot of that has to do with, because of the pandemic, people either moving away or whatever the case might be. But I think every school district around has seen a little bit of a drop off. Some may have seen an increase with the people from New York City moving out east, but we have not seen that impact. Now we get into the good news and bad news of where we are. Well, after 2 slides. This is a slide of live births. I got this from New York State Department of Health Vital Statistics, and it tracks the live births school district by school district and all around the state. So from 2007 to 2018, you could see people who live in Springs had babies starting at a high of 104 in 2015 to a low of 84 in 2017. The dotted line you see is the trend. So it looks like there's a slight decrease in the trend of the new births in Springs. And we know new births are not the only factor that affect enrollment in our school. I also went one step further. I took all of the 5 schools that make up the high school at East Hampton and tracked that out. And combined, we all have a similar story in that enrollments are declining slightly across all 5 of our different school districts. Now comes the good news and the bad news stuff. Our schools have never exceeded the tax cap. We have made do with revenue restrictions. We have never attempted to exceed the cap. The cumulative effect of low caps, uncertainty of future state aid, and a desire for a rigorous and relevant instructional program makes it challenging, continues to make it challenging to deliver a budget that stays at or below the cap. However, that is, again, the goal for this budget process. So the first item here, I've taken the tax cap calculator, I've calculated it for 2021. Our maximum the tax cap for us would represent, in the yellow, a 3.91% tax increase. How did that jump up from last year? Well, we've got almost $500,000, about $454,000 of interest expense that will be showing up for this year in 21-22. So it's like a little bit of a step this year and then another step the following year when the principal and interest combined affect us. And you can see how it lays out. This year it's a 3.91% cap. Next year it's a 3.75%. And then after that, it starts dropping down to in and around 2.5% for the next 4 years out if we do nothing else here, if nothing else changes. And this capital levy in the for each of these years, this is most of it's based on the capital bond. So we already know what that number is going to be for the next 20 years. We already know that we're dropping off in 2022. The middle school bond from 2002, that goes away. And we've got the continued plan to purchase basically one bus each year to replenish and upgrade our fleet of buses. So that's all in here planned out. The pilots, I know we're looking at, we budgeted, we're figuring 105, but talking to the town, that pilot looks like it's going to increase maybe to 127,000, but they're not fully sure. This is property for the telephone lines and the power lines that run through properties in Springs, and the state determines what that amount is going to be on a year-to-year basis. Unlike a lot of other types of pilots where you can actually get an amortization schedule that lays it out over a 10 or a 15-year period, this doesn't operate like that. So for the most part, that's basically it on the tax cap calculator. Like I said, it's a 3.91%, and it'll drop off in future years. State aid, here's where the good news and the bad news hits us. This year's governor's budget, column D, is calling for about a $2.5 million state aid number for us. Last year, if you recall, we only budgeted almost $4 million because we reduced what the initial budget from the enacted budget from column A, which is the executive budget. We reduced that number by about almost 21% in order to get to 1.39, anticipating that we would be losing that much in aid as the governor had basically explained. Fortunately for us, the good news is the Department of Budget recently has stated that nobody's going to lose their aid. The money is going to be restored, and they don't have a schedule yet as to when they're going to pay out the cuts that we saw in these aids and the grants. Another interesting thing in the governor's initial executive budget is that he's now including STAR payment as part of our state aid. Now, if you recall, when we calculate our taxes, our tax levy, that tax levy number starts out with STAR included in the number. Once we know the STAR number, we get the statistics from the East Hampton, and we can calculate out what we will be receiving in STAR aid, and the town reduces that levy by those credits to those taxpayers. This STAR payment number that you see here represents the credits that the taxpayers in Springs will receive on their tax bills. What it looks like from what ASBO is reporting, it looks like the governor has plans to try to eliminate the STAR payments, or at least the enhanced portion of STAR, which affects your senior citizens and your lower income people that live in Springs. And he's going to try to make it part of our state aid number. And you can see here in this year, because he knows that it's still a credit and we're going to get the reimbursement, he's showing it and he's taking it out right away. The final line, which is the green item in column D, This is where we get the biggest boost and why our initial budget from the governor is so much higher than it's been in any prior year, is the COVID-19 supplemental stimulus. This was money that the federal government approved back in December, sent to the state, and it's earmarked to go out to every district. That number alone has just pushed us up to 2.5. The next screen is the same state aid number, but I took the COVID pandemic supplemental stimulus out, and you can see the difference. It would drop us, column B's number would go from 80-something% down to 28.2%. And when you compare the initial governor's executive budget last year to what it's now going to be this year without that COVID stimulus, it would actually be a 13% decrease. So in a way, it's kind of like they're playing a little bit of a shell game with some of these numbers. And it makes life very uncertain going the long haul. There's a feeling out there among people, my constituents in ASBO, that this is supplemental stimulus money. It's a one-shot deal. We're not going to get it year after year after year. So we're going to reap the benefits this year, but then next year and the years thereafter, the governor's cutting a lot of our aid numbers. As you can also see, he's rolling up the hardware technology, the software library, textbook, transportation aid, and BOCES aid. He's combining that all into a category that he calls the special services aid. And he has plans on cutting that down as well. I think this current year, it's about a 30% decrease in total from what it would have been last year. So that's the good news and the bad news of our state aid. Fund balance history, I put this in here. This comes right off of our audited financial reports to give you a picture as to what's going on over the last 5 years with our reserves and our various categories of fund balance. As you can see, the bottom fund balance, we went from 9.5 million to 10.4. That's when we were still growing the capital reserve money from 4.7 to 5.7. Then it drops down to 4.8, which is when we pulled the money out of the capital reserve because it's part of the capital project, and we moved it over to the capital project account. And then in 1920, so we stayed 4.8, 4.3, and then we pop up again to 6. But remember, this past year, we had a little bit of extra surplus, and we increased our repair reserve to almost 1.1 million, as well as we increased the employee benefit. We established 187,000 for the retirement contribution to TRS. So it helped increase it, knowing that we could use that repair reserve for any kind of emergency drawdown relative to COVID, which we did in November, where we pulled down $500,000. But I think that gives you a good picture of where things are presently through June 30th of 2020 with our fund balance historically. All right, these are the important dates. We've got to have the budget and property tax report cards adopted by April 26th. First budget hearing the budget hearing itself will be May 11th, and a week later is the annual meeting, budget vote, and trustee election for the school district. So like I said, that was the good and the bad, but I think the most important thing in my mind anyway is when you look at the tax cap, to the degree in which you keep our taxes at the maximum cap, it will impact what happens down the road. So again, if we decide to go with a much lower tax levy, lower than the cap, keep in mind it's going to have a very substantial impact on future abilities to raise taxes up to any kind of a tax cap. So it's I think the road, I think it's starting to show that it's inevitable, it's coming.
Thank you, Mike. Questions from the board?
Thanks, Mike. So just to clarify, we're looking at 3.95% increase, but that is because of our capital expenses and other things in there. What's the actual tax levy rate?
1.26, either 2.6 or 2.3. I keep flip-flopping with the growth rate. It's 2.3. The 2.6 is we're allowed a 1.26 for the levy growth and then another 1.23 for the tax cap.
Right. And then I didn't quite understand what you're saying about the STAR payments. Are people going to be losing that?
It's possible. That's what the speculation at this point in time is. The governor hasn't fully come out, but everything he's doing is leaning in that direction. That STAR credit that people get on their taxes in December will disappear. And instead, they'll have to wait until the following December to get an actual physical check from the state comptroller's office.
Okay, so they're not losing it altogether.
No, it's just
when they get it, it will be just a different process. Okay.
It'll be a different process and it'll be a delay. So it's a cash flow kind of problem, especially for people that are senior citizens that are basically in retirement mode in fixed income situations.
Yeah.
It's going to be problematic for them.
So we were talking about things that we want to maintain, but going into next school year, we do anticipate having our whole new building. So what kind of expenses are we going to be looking at, not just maintaining, what might mean we need to be increasing?
Well, the first thing is, as Deb had mentioned before, we have this year in our budget 2 custodians that are 4-day part-timers.
Right.
We would like to make them full-time, which means they'll get benefits. So that's going to be probably a big add-on there. We've got a few other things I think that they've been talking about, right, Deb?
We talked already about technology for your new technology room. If you remember, that new technology room has a separate room for laptops or for desktop computers. And we had a conversation with Mr. Cole, and he would like probably a dozen computers for that room. That is not part of the capital project, but he's right. It's a new room. It's a separate location. We did not invest in desktops because he was doing woodwork in the same spot where he was doing technology. So there's an expense there. I think we figured like $25,000 for those new laptops. With East Hampton putting in a new kitchen for their culinary program, we really do believe if we can squeeze out a room for home and careers, we would really like to be able to do that. That would mean a new stove, a new refrigerator, and to make sure that our plumbing we were looking at a room that already has running water to make that happen. But that wasn't in our original vision. But I think as we looked at keeping our kids, Barbara, you said this, in a good spot going up to the high school, this is one of the programs that I think we really should have a conversation about and look at, because right now our home and careers program has barely any kind of cooking in it.
Do they have
So
that in middle school?
No, the new program is at the high school,
Okay.
but knowing that our children may not be up to par or may not have a sparked interest in cooking and culinary, I would feel that they'd be at a disadvantage going up to the high school. And that is a big field on the east end of Long Island, is being in restaurants and working in a restaurant. So we don't want them to be behind. We do a really good job in home and careers with entrepreneurship, about opening up your own business, because we know that that's something that our children are involved in, or their families are involved in. So we just want, again, make sure that they have been exposed to as much as possible before going up to the high school, so they can make some of those tough decisions when it comes to scheduling come 10th, 11th and 12th grade, that they've been exposed.
Right, but that might not be for next year. That might be for once we've gotten into the building and settled in. And that's more of a, like a want, what we think they should have versus like, really necessary for the new space that we have. But in terms of like necessaries for our new space, definitely custodian, you know, teacher wise, we're all set.
Yes.
I think the other thing was the science lab is going to need like equipment, microscopes, things like that, that they'll need for their science classes. It will have the cabinetry, some of the other built-ins, but we'll probably need some desks in there, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think the tables are included, Mike, but not the.
Counters, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So do we not have existing equipment from that, or do we have stuff that needs to be replaced or not enough?
We haven't had those conversations, Barbara, but right now, one of those classrooms that has science is really not a lab. So she's been limited in some of the labs that she's been able to do.
Right. So once we have a dedicated lab, it would be nice to use it really as a lab.
Yep.
Correct.
So that seems like the next step of this is, you know, I know you always have discussion with teachers every year in terms of figuring out what's necessary. What's your schedule for that?
Between now and March, Christine will be having those conversations with each department. And then in March, I'd like to bring forward Mrs. Cleary to do that discussion on the instructional side. Then the following month, we'll do facilities and, you know, maybe technology, so that you hear from the departments and what their needs are.
Right. Okay.
And with instruction, I would also put special ed, Ms. Cleary and Mrs. Delalio together for March.
Anyone have any questions?
I just like, you know, I'm looking forward to getting into the in-depth numbers on this. Again, this is preliminary, and I understand that, Mike. But again, looking forward to kind of rolling up our sleeves and getting into the nitty-gritty of what really needs to take place. Given the fact that you're just saying that, you know, you're looking at a 3-point-something increase, or was it 3.91% increase for next year. Anyway, I just thought you know.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, because I've been home sick with the COVID, I haven't been able to develop the worksheets that Christine and Kerry and so on need in order to start doing this development. So I'm a little behind on that. And actually, this meeting last year was in the middle of February.
Right.
So I think by the time we hit the end of February, beginning of March, you know, we'll have all of those details that you're looking for.
Yeah, and I can understand why there's a delay. The bureaucracy right now is crazy with the state, and
yeah.
So,
when is there any estimation when these decisions will be getting made, or no idea?
What decisions on what?
Oh, in terms of, you're saying, so for right now we have the funding from last year, but in terms of going forward, is that something that's still up in the air?
Well, I guess what I was hoping to hear from the board was, you know, are you amenable to going right up to the tax cap? Do you want to keep it a little bit lower? Give us a target to shoot for. I mean, I don't want to come to you with an outlandish expenditure number if it's unattainable.
oh no, we don't want you to do that either. I think giving us something that reaches the cap, you know, it's below the cap, as close as you can get to it, I think is something we're all going to be interested in seeing. And then we can go from there if we feel like we need to go below that.
All right, perfect. That's basically what I was hoping to hear.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3 is not a huge percentage. I feel like it wasn't at 2% last year. I mean,
Last year was
year, right?
1.8%.
Right.
And then with the exclusions, it put us to a little over 2, like about 2.4.
Right.
Yeah, but again, we're going to be in the middle of finishing up this capital improvement, and we're talking about some issues with space and class size. I mean, all those things are going to be critical in the discussion we're going to have in the next couple of months as to, you know, what spring school is going to look like as we go into next year. And it's going to be different than this year's, specifically because hopefully we're going to be back more into a live environment than the remote environment we're in right now.
Right.
We still don't know what the requirements are going to be for September either, and I don't think we're
Right.
going to know that anytime soon.
Well, I think they're going to be a lot less than they are right now. I just think that the pressure's on to get kids back into school in the best possible way, safe way, and I think the governor is going to be really working hard to make sure that kids are back in school live as much as possible. I think it's going to be a space issue for us as Springs, to be honest with you, about where we're going to do all this in the middle of finishing up our capital improvement.
That's probably the biggest challenge we have right now.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, we just had a long discussion about the timing for the summer.
Yeah.
The whole school is going to be under construction. Almost every square foot of that school is going to be under construction.
Right.
For most of the summer.
I'm gonna tell you, I've been there and done that, and it's a tightrope to walk.
It is.
Okay.
It comes right down to the wire every time.
Yeah.
But just think of what we will have in the end.
Oh yeah. No, I'm just saying, but the best, having a plan and a plan A and a plan B and a plan C to get to.
I hear what you're saying, Tim, but they can't take any space away from us. They can only give us space. They cannot take it away. or we will be out under a tent.
We're out in the woods.
We'll have a nice field, Mike.
Yep, we will. That we will. That's going to be another challenge is not letting the community. I'm hoping that, people going on here don't destroy that field. That's going to be tough. It's going to be a green pasture. People are going to be dying to get on.
Yeah, well, we got to work on that. That's security.
Yeah. I mean, during the school year, it may not be so bad because typically we have a security guard on until about 7:30.
Yes.
So we can make sure that he's policing the outside grounds more, especially during the daylight in the fall and in the spring, to make sure. And again, I think one of the discussions we're going to have during this budget process is with the board. Do you want to charge fees? If so, how do you want to do it? How do you structure it? A lot of school districts do. I've pulled down samples from quite a few districts as to what they do. And I'll be happy to discuss it and share it with the board at that time. Did we lose Tim and Barbara?
Yeah, it might be the snow.
Yes.
I had a tough time getting into this before.
The service out there has been very spotty all day, Mike.
Yeah. I was trying to get into Envision earlier. I had it this afternoon, but I lost it this evening. Couldn't get on.
Yeah, I think when the weather warms up, people are going to want to get on that field for sure.
They are, but I think we've got to preserve our investment as much as we can, and we've got to use a permit process, and maybe we've got to charge some sort of fees for the outside groups to use that field. It's an expensive investment the district has made for our kids, really.
So, Mike,
we'll put that on when we do facilities.
Yep.
Mike, with the budget, are you going to kind of come with after this feedback, you're going to come with one ideal budget? Or are you going to try to give us kind of like, maybe 2 or 3 options or some things that were maybe you could make cuts if we wanted to?
Yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll have one budget overall, but we can highlight in that budget what areas are eligible to be cut, or our wish list kind of items.
Okay.
Okay, we're almost done here.
Great.
Stand by, school board. We got some people signing back in.
I see Tim coming back in.
Tim lost power. He's back.
What happened? Is Barbara trying to get back on?
Yeah.
You want to take questions, Deb?
Julie just lost power
Yes.
too.
Dave, you're the vice president.
You're in command.
Do we have any questions?
Dave,
Is,
Dave, I'm sorry. Are you talking to the public or are you talking to the board?
He was asking you if there's any questions out there.
You.
Oh, there are zero phone calls. Thank you.
Thank you. Deb, I don't know. It didn't seem like there were really any other questions from the board.
Yeah, it was easier to kind of put together the revenue piece, even though it's been static and moving all over the place. But I just wanted to at least give you the flavor of what the revenues are going to look like that we know of at this point in time. And that's more kind of certain than rolling out the expenditures.
Deb, you're muted.
I was talking to Barbara. Dave, she pretty much thinks we were wrapped up here anyway. She lost power and internet.
Okay.
All right.
All right. I guess if there's no questions, what do you want to do?
I don't think I have enough people to do a
Well, you got three right there. You, yourself, and you. Me, myself, and I, as I say.
Did you lose Pat too?
We lost everybody.
All right.
All right.
I guess we're adjourned.
Why don't we adjourn the meeting?
Okay.
Thank
Sounds
you,
good.
Mike. Hey, Mike, happy that you're doing better.
Thank you. I'll be in on Wednesday.
All right.
Okay, so the meeting ended at 8:23.
All right, great. Thanks, Dave. Take care.
Thanks, Mike.
Good night. Matt, thank you. Anna, thank you.
You're very welcome.
You're welcome. Good night.
Good night.
all.